to talk about the ablative noun case today, and it's one of the ones that we have not talked about yet in Latin. There is not an English equivalent to ablative. It's kind of, I view it as kind of a catch-all in Latin. There's lots of different meanings. There's lots of different uses for it. So because of that, I have put together this purple ablative of chart. Pull it out, make sure you have it. You're going to transfer a bunch of information to it so that when you go back and go, why is that an ablative, or do I use an ablative for this, and does it have a preposition or not a preposition with it in the Latin, that'll help you to know exactly how to use it. So the ones we're going to talk about today do not require a preposition, which many ablatives do. We do have prepositions in English as well as Latin. We're not going to talk about this one today. We're going to talk about ablative means, manner, and separation. These are just the order that they're on your chart. So pull it out. The meanings that you know already of the ablative that you use when you decline nouns are by, with, and from. These are the ones that are understood automatically to be with the ablative. You can use other things as well, but these are the understood ones, kind of like we have understood pronouns in verbs, and that's why you don't need a separate pronoun. All right, first one we're going to talk about is ablative of means. Everything that here has a check mark on it, everything that needs to get transferred up to your little row there, and that's the information that you will use as you are in your Latin life to figure out how to use ablative. So the first thing you need to know is no preposition. And there are places you use prepositions, but so that's why it's important to write that down. In English, you're going to translate it as by or with, which are prepositions in English, but in Latin, you don't need them. So it indicates the thing by or with something is accomplished, but it's never used for a person and an animal. So it's only used for inanimate objects. If you're not sure if it's something called ablative of means, then what you can do is in the English, you can insert by means of. I'll show you how to do that, and that will be kind of like a test. Oh, if I can say by means of, then, and it makes English sense, then it's ablative of means. Let's take a look at a couple of these. I have already highlighted for you what would be in the ablative. So the battle was fought with swords. Right? That's your ablative. How was it accomplished that the battle was fought? What did you use to fight the battle with? How was it accomplished? With swords. That's why it's in the ablative. So she traveled by means of the road. You could say she traveled by road. She traveled by the road. You could say she travels by means of road. Even though it's usually by or with, you can totally appropriately translate as by means of, and that will never be wrong. All right. How did she travel? What thing did she use to accomplish her travels? The road. That's what makes it ablative. All right, let's try a couple of these in Latin, which will help you. Again, I have highlighted for you at first all the ablatives so that you understand and you can find them right away. All right, regina filios signis ludificat. All right, regina can only be the nominative singular. Filios can only be accusative plural. Let's take a look at our verb and see if everything matches. It's present, third, singular. So we can have a separate nominative, and we also can, it matches singular and singular. So signis we already know is ablative, and it's ablative plural. So let's translate it. Start with the regina, the queen. What did she do? She fools. Who does she fool? Who's the victim of being fooled? The accusative. The sons. So a couple choices. You could say with signs. You can say the signs if you want. You could say by means of. See how we insert that? And it makes total English sense. So either one is totally okay. But what we have to say is, how did she accomplish fooling the sons? Well, she did it with the signs. By means of. That's the thing she used to accomplish her goal. All right, the next one is nautai, socium, armis, vulnererunt. You can see right here, if we just learned how to use the third principal part for perfect. That is a perfect, and it is plural, and it is third person. So we can have a separate nominative, and sure enough, nautai, there's not a dative. It won't be a dative because it's not a giving, showing, telling verb. Well, I suppose it's giving the fact that it's wounding somebody, but it's not a giving verb. So nominative, plural, they're both plural, so that makes sense. Socium can only be accusative. singular, and I told you that ablative plural. Okay, so now tie. The sailors, what did they do? They wounded. Who did they wound? The accusative, the ally. Here again, you can say with weapons, or you could say by means of weapons. In this case, the just doing the word by doesn't make as much sense. The sailors wounded the ally by weapons. That doesn't make as much, but by means of certainly does, and with does as well. That is ablative of means. Make sure that you've transferred all of this up to your chart so you have it for later. And then when you're done, pause and go on. Ablative of manner. This one's in a white row, as you can see. So ablative manner, just two things to write down in there. Nope, again, no preposition needed if there's an adjective is included, and we want to translate as with. And it shows the manner or attitude with which something is accomplished. So emotions, attitude, you'll see in a minute how we do that. Again, I have done the ablative up in bolded here. Samwise faced the wraith with great bravery. How did he accomplish facing the wraith? With great bravery. That's his attitude. His attitude was brave. They launched the expedition with much anticipation. What was their attitude? Very anticipatory, right? Or in an anticipatory manner. Both of those would be in the ablative, and you see you've got that with right here, which is what we're translating. So let's do one in Latin and one in English and see how this works. I have not marked the ablative in here. You're going to recognize it right away. So let's look. Verb verse, saltamus. Saltamus is first person. It's first person plural. So we cannot have a separate nominative. Our pronoun is already included, and it is present tense. So molto gaudio. So here we have an adjective, and we have the noun it modifies. It can't be, it cannot be dative because there is no giving, showing, telling verb. There's also no accusative in here. And plus I've told you that we're doing ablative, so it's ablative singular. So we dance, again, with the with, molto, so you know, great. Means great. And then gaudio is a new word, with great zeal. What was their attitude? Zeal. So we took this two words here and we turned it into three because remember our with is understood. All right. Let's take a look at English to Latin because you'll have to do some of these. The farmers plowed the fields with great zeal. We can already identify the with phrase right here, with great zeal. We already know that that's ablative and it is singular. So farmers are a nominative and they're plural. They plowed. Here we have perfect again. And it has to be plural because our subject noun is plural and has to be third. What is the victim of being plowed? What got verbed? The fields, and so that makes it our accusative plural. All right, I'm going to translate this not with the verb at the end, but I'm going to translate it in word order for you to make much more easy sense. Know that in real Latin, verbs at the end, I don't really care. I just want you to get the words down here. Okay, the farmers. Nautai. What did they do? They wounded. Long verb here. Wollner averunt. Wounded. Sorry, they didn't wound the fields. They plowed the fields. And I'm farmers. I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry about that. Agricolae. They plowed. Let's not wound the fields. Araverunt. They plowed the fields. Agros. Okay, with. We don't do a with because there's no preposition, but we can do magno studio. And you'll notice in these that the adjective comes first in both of these, and that's just the way it's done in the ablative of manner. Usually the adjective comes second. I don't care where you put it, but just so you know, it usually comes first. All right, so that is Ablative of manner. Once you get your two things to write down, let's go on to the next one. Ablative of separation. All right, last one. There again, no preposition. And here's how we translate it. There's a couple different ways we translate it. We can translate it as from, away from, and then there's verbs that we can use that will have an of afterwards. There's a bunch of different ways to translate this. You do the one that makes most English sense. You'll see as we go along. And it expresses that a person or thing is separated from another, which is why it's called the ablative of separation. It can be two people, it can be two things, it can be a person and a thing. There's no rules about that. And it commonly is used with verbs meaning to free, to lack, and to deprive. You've got some of these in your chapter this week. That's why they introduced them. So you'll see it, and there's different meanings, translations for these verbs, so just use the one that makes the most sense for you. All right, first one, again. Fathers kept the daughter from the dance. I've already highlighted both ablative phrases for you so you can see different ways. From the dance. So what is being separated here in this first one? The daughters are being separated from the dance. The orphan was deprived of. So here we have the verb deprived of, deprived. We have to add an av to make sense. What was separated? The orphan was separated from affection. Pretty easy. Let's do a couple of these, one in Latin and one in English to help you a little bit. So, carebant. So we've got imperfect, we have third, and we have plural. So do we have a separate nominative in colai? Again, there's no accusative, and it's not a giving, showing, telling verb. This means to be without, carebant. So there can't be dative. In colai can't be dative. It can only be nominative plural. And one of the good things about memorizing your charts and first declension, the only case that has an A with a macron over the top, a strong A, is ablative singular. So you don't even have to guess and see that it's nominative. If it has a macron, it's ablative singular. So the settlers, it's imperfect, were without. What were they without? A country. So we won't say from or away from. We use the verb in this case. One of the translations to be without. It wouldn't make sense. We're without of country. Translated into English the way it makes sense, but a country would still be in the ablative because it's ablative of separation. Who were separated? The settlers were separated from the country. That's why it's ablative and not accusative. All right, the one in from English into Latin, the maidservant will free the children from the palace. All right, we can already see the ablative phrase. This one's easier because it's a from the palace. We know that's ablative, and it's ablative singular. And who's doing the action? The maidservant. So she is nominative singular. We have our verb phrase will free. So it's future, again, singular to match the maidservant. And it's third because we can't have a separate nominative without a third person verb. Who is the victim of being freed? Who is getting freed? The children. So remember, victim of the verb. Children has to be plural, of course. And so let's translate. So maidservant. Again, I'm going to do it in word order rather than Latin word order. Ancilla. What will she do? Will free. Liberabit. She will free. Who is she freeing? The children. Liberos. And then from the palace, no preposition here. We're just going to have one word with the ablative ending. Regia. Remember with the macron on it to show that it's ablative. The maidservant will free the children from the palace. That's it, just 3 of them.